Hello, welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. If you've been following me for a little while, you'll know that I have lost my proper glasses. And it's been about 3.5 weeks. I don't remember how long ago it was that Fiona roared through and somehow did some magic. Well, about 3 nights ago, I was sitting on the couch in a different direction. Usually I sit forward this way, but this time I was scooched up, rotated halfway, and I looked down between the couch cushions and the back, and so the back comes all the way down, and the part you sit on bumps up to it. So Steve and I have each up multiple times checked that section and checked the middle section and checked the edges and looked underneath, and no glasses. This time, when I was turned around, I see all these kind of black, scroggly things, and I thought, oh, my ear doodad has fallen down. So I reach in and I pull it out, and I think, that's not an ear doodad, that's my glasses. And so, ta-da! They've been found. And now that I'm telling you that story, they were clean 3 minutes ago, but 3 minutes ago was another world. Anyhow, I look at Steve and I say, did you do that? Is that a joke? And he's like, no, that's not a joke. And I go, well, because it's not a funny joke. Did you know where they were and you just put them there in the hopes that I would see them? He said, no. And I thought, well, I believe him because it's been stressful without them. So I figured he wasn't going to, play that kind of a trick on me. So what had happened was that the glasses had fallen underneath that back part. So down, padung, and I don't know what dislodged them. The couch hadn't moved. Cats hadn't been playing. I don't know what happened. Anyhow, I finally have my glasses back, and I am so grateful because now I've got, that distance beyond 24 inches, and those previous glasses are not really that good for that kind of watching. And these ones are starting to get not so good for distance watching because I've noticed that the printing on television, what is that called? Subtext or something. Anyways, that's getting to be a bit fuzzy. So I'm pretty sure I'm ready for a new set of glasses. But anyhow, I'm saved. No. The other thing that happened that was good news for me is that I read 3 books that I enjoyed. I think I've conquered whatever it is. Maybe all I had to do was crab about it in order for me to, get into a different mood. But the first book that I read, that I truly, really super duper enjoyed was The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. And this is a book for middle readers. It was written in 2014, and it's a fantasy, although it doesn't have the sticker there. And we've got a young girl called Luna, and she's an infant when she comes into the story, and she doesn't come into the story immediately, but someone who is her elder, Anne Train, is a young lad who is going to be joining the Protectorate. And one of the things that the Protectorate do is they take the baby born closest to the new year and they put it in the woods as an offering to the witch, and they all make the assumption that the witch is taking it and doing terrible things, or if not, then the woodland animals are doing terrible things for her. And what the reality is that the witch is indeed taking the babies, but taking them to families where there hasn't been the opportunity to have children. So they leave this hard, sorrowful, patriarchal kind of a community, the babies, and abandoned in the woods, off to a better world. And Luna comes along, and her mother is not going to let that baby go. And consequence of her being forced to relinquish Luna is that she goes mad. Now what we've got is a world of magic. You can tell by the outset because there's a witch. There's evil, boggy things from the villagers' point of view, but what's the reality and what's the reality? So we've got a dragon that has been traumatized in his babyhood and has not really grown much past, I would say probably this is a little, what did she say? They simply, oh my goodness, he calls himself simply enormous dragon, and he's about this big, and he sees the world through his own size, which the things that are important to him, that like the insects that he eats, are just, tiny, and he's enormous relative to them. So he doesn't really see himself in terms of the other beings around him, like the goats and the witch and so on. So there is a beast that comes out of the bog that was one of the first animals when the creation of this world happens. There are wizards and other magical things that happen, and the people in the Protectorate do not want their community to know any of this. So they have created a world where sorrow and grief is just an ongoing thing. And by taking away this child every year, you have a community that is always sad. And there are beings that feed upon this sadness. So what you have eventually is Luna ending up in the woods, and the witch coming, taking her, so on. And Luna, through some fairly interesting escapades, becomes quite a magical being herself, but doesn't realize it. And so raising a child from infancy to toddlerhood who has uncontrollable magic is quite an experience. So we see some of that. She's a lovely child. She's full of innocence. She's always going forward. She never looks behind her to see what mayhem has, landed, where she may have, as running past the goats and petting them on the nose, turned them into peanut butter, or just that kind of thing. She's very inquisitive, very active. And so how are you going to teach this little one the magic that she needs to know without having the world explode around her? And so that's part of the story. Then there's the part of the story of the mad mother who's been left behind. There's the story of Zan, the witch who becomes the adoptive grandparent of Luna. She had her own childhood issues. There's the bad folks back at the Protectorate. There's the good side of the forest where people are much more good-natured and well-thinking. So there's all these different elements to the story. And what Kelly, is that Kelly? Yeah, Kelly has done is she's woven this wonderful blanket of gradually interconnectedness, but as well as gradual reveals. It's a little bit like a blanket where you see that it looks like a green and blue plaid, and then you look a little bit closer and you go, oh, there's a bit of black in there, and then there's a bit of navy blue in there. And so the more you look, the more becomes revealed, and you start to see what overlaps and underlays. And it's just a very, very well done. And what I also liked is that Luna is not entirely a main character until a good way through the book. And we see her supporting characters and their story, and get to understand their passions and sorrows and happiness and so on. So you start to see why they've made some decisions that are maybe for the good of Luna, but maybe they're for the good of themselves. So I truly, truly enjoyed this. I gave this a 4.5. And the one thing I haven't done for you is check to see whether this author, Kelly Barnhill, has written other books. She's written The Witch's Boy prior to this, and so I don't know what else comes. Oh, wait a minute, there's another one here, The Mostly True Story of Jack. So that's at least 2 other books to go and seek out if you enjoy this author, which I think I will. I think she really picked me up when I was down. Now, the second book that I read for you people who love your cats. Now, I've got 2 cats and I love them too, but that's not a good enough reason to make me finish a book. But I knew that there are those of you out there who will do anything that's cat related. And this book, Cat Among the Pumpkins by Mandy Morton, is one you're going to love. Now, Mandy Morton has written another book prior to this, the No. 2 Feline Detective Agency. And so there's a couple of little things that are familiar to the No. 1 Ladies Detective book by, is that Alistair MacLeod? Oh, I can't remember. Anyhow, all the characters are cats. So we've got a cat detective and her sidekick. Hetty is the main detective, and I can't remember exactly what, Tilly is her sidekick. All of the cats are they're almost fully anthropomorphized. They will drive motor cars or motorcycles. They will be bakers or postmistresses. Then every once in a while they'll be, after a good fish pie, they'll be licking themselves, or they'll curl up for a nap or something. So you get this crossover of cat behavior and human behavior, and I think it's a little low on the cat behavior. I could have used with a few more hisses and swishing tails and ears doing cat ear things, but maybe that happens in the first book. I again did not look to see whether there were more books in this series. Shame on me, but I just got so excited by having a book that this was also written in 2014. So I suspect that there's more, because I'm sure that's like a very popular thing. There's my clock. Okay. I'm sure you guys all have days where you just think to yourself, this day just keeps getting sillier and sillier. Well, there's no point in telling you why my day is silly, but let's just say we're on to silliness number 72. Now, the irony of this book, the cat, being a part of a series, is you all heard me rant and rave about series and how I don't like to read a book until the series is fully out. So not cluing into that was a series, I then picked up another book, Dragon's Green by Scarlett Thomas, World Quake Book 1. This comes back to my reading to-do list that's years old, and I'm pretty much clear of the 20-teens, and sort of a few left in 2018, 2019 to cross off my list. But one of the things that I have discovered is I never made a notation as to whether something was part of a series. So that's something I've learned going forward, to do going forward. I think this month of grumpiness really helped me sort of think about my approach to books, and so that's one thing I must include, is if something is part of a series, put it on a separate list, do the research, see how many books are out, and if there's at least 3 books in the series, then it's worth tackling. If it's the first book in the series, just put a little star beside it that says wait till 2032 or whatever. Yes, so I did not realize this was part of a series, and I had picked up another book by Scarlett Thomas that was an adult book a couple of videos back, and I did not finish it because it was just boring. I just really, whatever I said about it, it was not complimentary. And so I thought, well, Scarlett Thomas, oh dear, I just DNF'd her. But this is a middle grade book, and it was a middle grade book that took me to her in the first place. So I decided to go for it, and I really liked it. I kept coming back to it. I kept sneaking back to it. I would be doing something and think, oh, I could read another couple pages. And the good thing about that is I did it with a book sneaking away. I snuck away to a book instead of sneaking away to YouTube or Instagram. So I call that a big step forward. Definite self-improvement moment. Okay, so we've got Effie. Effie is a young girl who has experienced loss. Dad has remarried. There's a new baby in the program. Mom disappeared when a world earthquake happened, and one of the things that was a victim of this was, well, first of all, Effie's mom disappeared, and secondly, things like the internet and communication devices and so on have gone back several generations. So there are still computers, but they're dealing with modems. Cell phones don't really work anymore, so they've gone back to kind of a combination of 1980s and 1990s technology. So what does that have to do with anything? So it means that communications are a struggle, and everything else is kind of modern, but magic has become a little more prevalent in the real world, and then there is an other world. And these two worlds have always been connected, but through this earthquake, certain of those regulators have become a little less stable. And Effie's father has insisted that Effie not learn anything about magic at all. And so her grandfather Griffin, who was a mage, is a mage. He couldn't, for some reason, he would, I'm not sure why, he had a 5-year ban on using and talking about magic, so he could not teach his granddaughter the way he wanted to. So that was an ongoing tension, and Effie knows there's magic that her dad doesn't believe in, but then if it's not true, then why are you so uptight about it? And so this kind of triangle of tension. Effie is not, she's the main character, but the other characters have strong roles. And we meet her first classmate, Maximilian, who is also a bit of a lost kid in finding his way, and there's connections to magic that are not immediately apparent. And as the book continues, several more characters from her class come forward into her life, and so we get the team that is built that I expect we will encounter in book 2, which is available, and in fact book 3 is available as well. So I don't know how long the series actually runs, but 3 generally is enough for me. Okay, I think if I tell you anything more about it, the trick with middle reader books is that the plot usually is fairly linear, and so if you give away too many plot points, then I might as well just tell you the whole thing. This one has not necessarily more plot points, but we've got, because there are several characters, we've got several different storylines of how the plot is going to be resolved. So we will see the story from Maximilian's point of view for a little while, but he's still connected to Effie. Like, we never lose sight, we never get just a point of view from a character that excludes the others. And when Raven comes into the story, then she's integrated into the story. I think this is another example of an author having taken some very interesting ideas and done a really beautiful job of meshing and melding and bringing things forward to a very cohesive little story. So I don't know what happened to the adult book that I don't remember the name of, but yeah, certainly the middle books I am enjoying. Okay, so a little update on Nonfiction November. I have either the books in the house behind me or they are on the shelf at the library. And thank you to the person who pointed out that The Lady of the Black Lagoon was on the Halifax Public Library shelves. I don't know why I didn't find it the first time. I certainly looked, so I must have done something. I think you may have had this experience too, other people, but when I put things into the library, sometimes it spell checks. So you could put in lagoon and maybe it doesn't like it. It might come back with laguana, and I might not have noticed. So certainly there are 3 copies of the book there. So I'm not going to tell you too much about that yet because it's still October, and if I tell you too much now, then, content. What I will say is that I did not do the piece of getting a Book Olives YouTube connector for November into the doobly-doo description thing. Last week's computer stuff makes today look like a glee club. Anyhow, I'm losing my train of thought. So, a Book Olive on YouTube, Nonfiction November, or hashtag Nonfiction November, will get you to the announcement sites, and she's got recommendations, and I will try to link it this week. Hopefully I succeed. She's got stuff up on Instagram, so I have been following the Instagram Nonfiction November thread, and so there are a lot of book recommendations coming forward. Another thing by following that is that YouTubers that like to follow Nonfiction November are coming to my notice because I'm following that hashtag. So if you're looking for people who like to read like you or just bring a fresh perspective to you, that might be a new way to expand or refresh your own viewing pleasure. There are also the 4 prompts. I don't remember them all. Breath, borders, elements, silence, I think. I don't know that my books really fit in those categories. I'll have to do some creative thinking about that. This is actually not wine, it's just that I was wishing that I could drink wine, and so I thought if I get the glass and add some soda water, I can pretend. So I'm looking forward to Nonfiction November because I think it will help to strain the juices, if that is, you know what I mean. It's like I've got all this lumpy thinking in my head about books and what am I doing and how am I choosing them, and I don't like a month that doesn't have any good books in it. So I'm thinking that by reading the nonfiction, it will kind of weigh on my head, and all the good thoughts will just kind of come down, and we'll have a nice bowl of juice to savor once Nonfiction November is over. And yeah, what do we do with the pulpy fruit? I don't know. That metaphor doesn't work 100%, but I'll let you think about what we will do with the pulpy juice afterwards. Freezer pops. Okay, so I think that's it for me. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now.